Oh, that's a bit much. Hey, what's up? I'm Allie, and welcome back to my channel. You guys seem to love when I filmed down here last time, so I'm doing it again. Plus, I just want to be surrounded by plants because I'm so ready for spring. I'm just gonna take in all the beautifulness that is out here for now. Today's video was actually inspired by a TikTok trend that I saw going around on BookTok, where it was like 5 books that I wish I could read for the first time. I'm sure that it's been done before on here, but I'm gonna do it today. So that's what we're gonna do. I have 5 books here that I really wish I could just read for the first time. Like, here's the thing. I don't have a fantastic memory, especially when it comes to books. Like, give me enough time, and if I ever reread a book, it will basically be like I'm reading it for the first time again, because I've done forgotten everything. That's just how my brain seems to be. However, these are books that have left such an impression on me that there's no way I could ever reread them and it feel like the first time again, because they are so ingrained in me. Like, the memories of them are so ingrained in me. Like, they were left such an impact on me that I don't think I could ever read them and feel the same way that I did in that moment. And a lot of it does come down to in the moment. Maybe it was just the perfect book for me in that moment. Maybe it was just the overall feeling that it gave me, but these are 5 books that I immediately thought of when I thought, if I could read something for the first time and feel that way again, which books would it be? And it would be these ones. So I'm going to start off with probably the most obvious and then work my way to maybe the least obvious. I don't know. I think to me these are all obvious. To me. But maybe not to you guys. I have probably the most obvious, and I'm sure that this could probably be on a lot of people's list because it has just been such an impactful book in general in the world, and that is the book. So anyone who didn't feel extremely impacted when they read this book, it is such a devastating story, and it's such a unique story because Death is our narrator, and that was like the first that I had seen of this. This was one of my first looks into like World War II fiction type thing, and so obviously it's not going to be a very heartwarming story. It's quite sad and very traumatic. This follows a young girl who growing up in Nazi Germany, and it deals with like the family that takes her in, growing with them and learning to read and write, and how she finds reading as an escape during these times and still manages to be able to create things and feel joy and live happily. And even though all this sorrow and hate is going on around her, and so she ends up stealing books from quite a influential person in the neighborhood, but it turns out okay, and it's about friendships and family. So yeah, her family ends up hiding a Jew in their basement, and kind of the connections that she makes there and what ends up happening, and then of course how the war goes. So this is such an extremely devastating book, and I can still picture it so vividly. It has been over 5 years since I first read this, and I know that there would be things that, like little details that I wouldn't remember, but the overall impact of the story is still with me. It's still with me. It is like the most clear in my head, and I just wish that I could read it again and feel that again. It's not like a great feeling, but it's one that was such a strong feeling that I wish I could read this again and be that impacted by a story again. It's one of my all-time favorite reads, so, you know, most of these are my favorite reads, obviously, so. Alright, next, we'll go with my actual all-time favorite read, and one that I feel like a lot of people have heard me talk about, so they might be expecting this, obviously, but that is If We Were Villains. This is kind of a more recent read, although it probably has been like 3 years since the first time I read this now. Oh my god. It's still very vivid in my mind, but this is like my all-time favorite book. This is a dark academia book. It follows a group of friends who are at a kind of Shakespeare acting school, and they're putting on Shakespeare plays, and one of their friends ends up dead. We are following Oliver, and Oliver he went to jail for this murder, but the detective comes after the fact. The detective is already retired, and he's like, just tell me what really happened, because I know you didn't kill him. So this looks back on his memories of when he was at the school and their friend group, and it really just gets into the dynamics of their friend group and the things that were going on. And of course there's Shakespeare plays happening, and they're so vivid and it's so descriptive, and I just felt so many things reading this. I wanted to be friends with all of them, and I wanted to be part of this world, and then things go awry, and then the ending of this is what I wish I could relive. The shock of the ending of this, and just the way I felt reading the ending of this, and just how fantastic it was. That's what I miss the most, is the moment that I finished this and I kept going back and rereading it and rereading it and rereading it, because it was so perfect. It was so perfect. So I wish that I could just relive the moment of reading this. Even just that ending, just that moment was so worth it. These are looking very gloomy so far. This next one might be kind of surprising because I don't talk about this series a lot. But this was one of the first fandoms that I ever really got into, and I raved about this book, and this was the first book that I was really recommending to people outside of BookTube as well, and they were picking it up and enjoying it. That's Cinder and the Lunar Chronicles. The Lunar Chronicles was such a eye-awakening moment for me. This was like my first time really realizing that I love series and I love binging series, because I binged the hell out of this when I got it. And it was such a unique kind of fairy tale retelling. The first one, it follows Cinderella, and basically she's part like android type thing going on, cyborg, whatever. And there is this deadly virus that has taken over the world, and there is a lunar queen who is kind of holding the cure over their head, and there's all these other things. There's like a brink of war type thing going on, but the prince, she catches his eye, and some things just happen, and it's so, I love these characters. These were the first characters that I really fell in love with, and just the series that I really fell in love with, and so many parts of the story are still so vivid to me. These characters are so vivid to me. They are just ones that I really love, and I just wish I could binge read this whole series from start to finish again and still feel the excitement and like wanting to stay up to read it, and just feeling like I was a part of something again for like the first time. I had read other series, but I don't think I really got into a fandom and understood like jokes on Tumblr. This was like peak Tumblr days until I read this. And I wish I could go back to that. I wish I could go back to that. I really want to do a reread. I know it wouldn't be the same, but I still want to do a reread because I love them so much. And then next is Eliza and Her Monsters. This is mostly because this was a book that I really felt the need to stay up to finish reading. Like, stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning to finish reading. Like, I had a need for it. It wasn't like, oh, you know, I got the time, I'll keep going. It's I could not put it down. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I put it down. I read this in one sitting. I started it at night. I was like, I'll read a few pages and then I'll go to bed. No, I will not. And I think what impacted me the most with this story is that, like, there were parts of this that just hit me so hard in the feels, and I saw myself in these pages. This is about a girl who creates a comic series, and she does it anonymously, but it's a very popular comic series. And there is a boy at school, and she gets to talking to him one day and finds out that he is kind of like her number one fan, basically. And she doesn't want him to find out. And of course, there's romantic feelings end up getting involved, but she's trying to keep this secret from him because she doesn't want the world to know who she is. And it's a little bit of dealing with just anxiety and just stress in your first relationship and things like that, and just the unknown. I felt like I just saw myself in so many of these pages. There was like one scene where I was like, oh my god, this has happened to me. Like, this is a scene from my life, and I just connected so hard with these characters, and I loved just you get to see little bits of her story and her comic, and you get to see like he writes like this fan fiction about her stuff, and it was just so good. I love these characters, and I just wish that I felt that need again. It's been such a long time. This may have been the last book that I felt that deep need to stay up and read and finish. Like, I have to finish this right now. I couldn't tell you the last time I had that deep need for that. It's one thing during the day. It doesn't feel as urgent. But at night, it's like, I can't stop. And it's been so long since I felt that way. And I just wish I could find another book that made me feel that way. I wish that I could reread this so I could feel that way again. And then we have the last one here. This might be obvious because this is one of my all-time favorite books, but it is not one that I recommend a lot because I know the author is a very acquired taste. But anyone who has been here since like the beginning of my channel will know I used to rave about this a lot. But that is Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk. Mostly I wish that I could just read my first ever book by him again, which was this one, which is why it's my favorite. Your first Palahniuk book is mostly going to be your favorite Palahniuk book because he's so out there and wild and you never know what to expect. And so when I went into this, I did not know what I was getting myself into, and it was a wild ride. I couldn't stop thinking about this book for like 2 years straight. Could not, because it was just so unexpected, so gross at times, so weird, so out there. And I know that if I read it today, I already know what to expect from his writing. I know what to expect. Like, I know there's going to be gross out scenes, and I know that he's going to do things for shock value. Like, I know these things. So I don't think it would feel the same, and I also think I would heavily critique it today and would not enjoy it as much. But this book was like a pivotal moment for me when I read this book. I was like, oh my god, like this is my kind of writing. I like this weird shit. I like what's going on here. And this was just so all over the place. It was written in a style I had never seen before at that time. The other literary fiction I felt like I was reading was so boring. And this was like a book that just was like, this is what that can be like. This is it. But I held this on such high of a pedestal for so many years because I just could not get over it. I couldn't get over it. I couldn't get over the writing. I couldn't get over the story. I couldn't get over all the things that just shocked me. It was like page after page. I never knew what was coming next. And I feel like I definitely, as someone who's read a lot, you tend to be able to see things and you tend to be able to guess a lot of plot lines, but I still think even today I would not have been able to guess where this was going 99% of the time, even after all the books that I have read. This is about a model who gets her face shot off, and basically how she meets up with this group. She ends up meeting Brandy Alexander, who is a queen, an absolute queen, and basically is going to reinvent herself because she doesn't want to live in the past. She's not that model anymore. She doesn't want to be this invisible kind of woman now. She doesn't want to be the monster that she thinks that she is, so it means reinventing herself. But oh boy, is it a ride. Is it a ride? That's it. That's all I got. Those are the 5 books that I really wish I could reread for the first time. No, not reread. That I wish I could just read for the first time. That I could feel these feels and be in this moment and experience the things that I did when I read these for the first time. I'm very sad, but I'm very happy that I read these stories because these are fantastic stories and they have obviously impacted me. It's been over 5 years for a lot of these stories since I read them, and they are still leaving such an impact on me. A really fantastic book. It doesn't matter how bad your memory is. A really fantastic book. Just really settles into you. It becomes you. I'm not a deep person. We're not going to get into that. Let me know what some of your books that you wish you could read for the first time are. Or if you've done a video like this, link it down below. I'd love to see it. Anyway, I hope you guys have liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!